Khamzat Chimaev has finally spoken out following swirling rumors that Dricus Du Plessis is injured and their anticipated UFC 317 title clash is off the table. The undefeated wrecking machine didn't hold back, dropping a blunt, crude message that's only added fuel to the chaos already surrounding the UFC's biggest event of the year. With International Fight Week now hanging in the balance and no official confirmation from the UFC, fans are left with more questions than answers and one furious Khamzat waiting in the shadows. The UFC's International Fight Week card, widely expected to be one of the biggest of the year, may have just taken a serious hit. According to longtime MMA journalist Kevin Iole, reigning middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis is reportedly dealing with an injury that could force him out of the highly anticipated UFC 317 event. Although the UFC never officially confirmed the fight, it was heavily rumored that Du Plessis would headline the July card in Las Vegas against undefeated contender Khamzat Chimaev. Fans and analysts alike had been banking on that matchup to carry the marquee status of International Fight Week, but Iole's report, tucked into an article focused on Islam Makhachev's future, sparked major concern across the MMA community. He wrote, "I'm hearing Dricus Du Plessis is injured," and added that such an injury would prevent the planned bout with Chimaev from going ahead as the main event. While the UFC hasn't made any official statements, the rumor alone has already stirred chaos, throwing the status of UFC 317's main event into complete uncertainty. The UFC's International Fight Week is traditionally one of the promotion's biggest spectacles of the year, a celebration of the sport packed with fan events, Hall of Fame inductions, and of course, a stacked fight card to cap it all off. For 2025, all signs had been pointing toward a blockbuster headliner, middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis defending his title against the undefeated and highly dangerous Khamzat Chimaev. While the UFC hadn't formally announced the matchup, fans, insiders, and fighters alike were convinced it was the only fight that made sense for such a high-profile slot. The timing, the momentum, and the narrative were all lining up. But then came the curveball. Veteran combat sports journalist Kevin Iole, in a piece that wasn't even about the middleweight division, quietly dropped a bombshell mid-article. "I'm hearing Dricus Du Plessis is injured, and though there has been no confirmation, if that's accurate, a bout between Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev couldn't headline IFW." The comment, just a single line in a broader discussion, exploded across MMA Twitter within hours. Fans quickly latched onto the news, expressing everything from disappointment to suspicion. Some even accused Du Plessis of ducking the fight, despite no confirmation from the UFC or either fighter. And that's when Chimaev finally broke his silence. Known for his fearless attitude and straight-shooting approach, Chimaev responded on social media with a short but fiery message, "This guy biggest bulls," accompanied by a facepalm emoji. In typical Chimaev fashion, it was raw, direct, and left people guessing. Was he referring to Du Plessis himself, frustrated that the champion may have pulled out of the fight? Or was he calling out Iole, implying that the report was inaccurate or exaggerated? Either way, the message made one thing crystal clear: Chimaev is not happy. This reaction fueled the growing frenzy online, as fans debated the intent behind Chimaev's words and what it meant for the highly anticipated matchup. For many, his outburst only reinforced the narrative that he was locked in and ready to go, while the champion was suddenly nowhere to be found. As things stand now, neither the fight nor the injury have been officially acknowledged by the UFC, but the uncertainty has left a major question mark hanging over what was expected to be the promotion's most stacked card of the year. What makes this entire situation even more frustrating for fans is that none of it had ever been made official to begin with. The UFC never announced a title fight between Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev for UFC 317. There was no poster, no press conference tease, not even a cryptic Dana White social media drop. But the writing seemed to be on the wall. Chimaev, undefeated and surging, had long been viewed as the boogeyman of the middleweight division. Meanwhile, Du Plessis had just silenced all doubters by putting on a clinical performance against Sean Strickland to claim the belt at UFC 312. With International Fight Week needing a true headliner, it seemed like a no-brainer to match up the South African champion with one of the most dangerous and marketable contenders in the game. Du Plessis himself had even fueled that narrative during his post-fight interviews. When asked about the possibility of moving up or chasing super fights, he shut the idea down. No Alex Pereira. No flashy detours. Just business. He was locked in on Khamzat Chimaev. "I want Khamzat next. He deserves a hiding," Du Plessis declared confidently, setting the tone for what felt like a collision course. He made it clear that he wanted to cement his legacy not by chasing easy title defenses or marquee names, but by beating the scariest man in the division, Chimaev. And that's what made the injury rumor land with such a heavy thud. After months of fans anticipating a war, after Du Plessis himself called for the fight, the idea that it could be slipping away without ever being formally announced hit hard. People weren't just reacting to a canceled fight, they were reacting to the letdown of a narrative they had been building in their minds for weeks. Without confirmation, fans are left in limbo, trying to piece together a story that was never officially told in the first place. With the potential loss of Du Plessis versus Chimaev as the main event, UFC 317 suddenly finds itself in murky waters. For an event as high-profile as International Fight Week, expectations are always sky-high. This is the crown jewel in the UFC calendar, where the biggest stars and most meaningful fights are supposed to shine. And now, with the most anticipated bout hanging by a thread, fans are wondering what could possibly take its place. So far, the only major fight officially announced for the card is a flyweight title bout between reigning champion Alexander Pantoja and top contender Kai Kara-France. While that's a solid fight for hardcore fans, it doesn't quite have the blockbuster appeal needed to anchor a card of this magnitude. No disrespect to Pantoja or Kara-France, they're both elite talents, but the average casual viewer doesn't circle a flyweight fight on the calendar the way they would for a middleweight title clash featuring Khamzat Chimaev's name. The UFC now finds itself at a crossroads. If Du Plessis truly is injured and the fight with Chimaev is off the table for July, they'll either need to pull a major rabbit out of the hat, possibly involving names like Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, or even Conor McGregor, or risk a significant dip in buzz for their tentpole summer event. As of now, Du Plessis hasn't publicly addressed the injury rumors. His last tweet, posted back on March 29th, cryptically read, "I'm out, see you in a week or so, #blindleadingtheblind." Whether that was about training, travel, or something more serious, fans are left to speculate. Meanwhile, Chimaev waits, clearly ready to go. And the MMA world watches closely, wondering if UFC 317 will deliver on the hype or become the one that got away.